Well, they're really pushing the second wave here in Australia. They're saying Victoria is in the grip of the second wave. And they're really pushing it, folks. They're really pushing it. They're bringing in mandatory face masks in Victoria now. They're saying the second wave is going to be tougher to deal with, of course, than the first wave. I would suggest one of the reasons it's going to be tougher is because they're bringing in things like mandatory face masks. It's now a $200 fine in Melbourne if you leave your house without a face mask on.
First and foremost, masks and face coverings will, from 11:59 p.m. Wednesday night, be mandatory for everyone in Melbourne and Mitchell Shire. If you are out of your home for one of the 4 permitted reasons, then you need to be wearing a mask, and I stress, or a face covering. It need not be a hospital grade mask. It need not be one of the handmade masks like I was wearing when I came in today. It can be a scarf, it can be a homemade mask. It's a relatively simple thing, but it's also about embedding behaviour that I think is going to be just as important on the other side of this second wave as it is in bringing these case numbers down. We are going to be wearing masks in Victoria and potentially in other parts of the country for a very long time. There's no vaccine to this wildly infectious virus, and it's a simple thing, but it's about changing habits. It's about it becoming a simple part of your routine. Most of us wouldn't leave home without our keys. We wouldn't leave home without our mobile phone. You won't be able to leave home without your mask and then wear it where it is absolutely essential to stop the spread of this virus.
So basically they're making you perform an action which is going to make you sick under the threat of punishment, under the threat of being fined if you do not adopt this procedure, which is going to inhibit your airflow, cause you to breathe your own viral load back into your body, and essentially make you sick. Of course, there are ways of avoiding the facial recognition and all the stuff they want to roll out with it, folks. There are certain procedures you could undertake. If you're forced to wear a mask, well, you could kind of go a little bit over the top with it. Some people are doing that. But this is just the beginning, folks. It's not going to go away. I said that months ago. This is not going to go away. They're going to release the lockdown a little bit, and then they're going to ramp it up even more. The way they've done with the border opening here in Queensland, how they've managed to open the borders, and really it's more difficult to get through the borders now they've opened them than what it was when the borders were closed. Hey, Billy. It's quite remarkable how they're able to do that. But people just kind of go along with it. And it's going to get more and more full on, folks. What they want to do, the COVID pass. I mentioned to you a few reports ago, the COVID pass they want to bring in, the mandatory pass that everybody needs to have to show they're infection-free, all the stuff they want to do. They're trialling it in Africa now. They're calling it a trust pass. Isn't that nice? A trust pass to make sure you're vaccinated. A vaccination record payment system is what they're talking about. This is the payment system. They want you to be scanned, retinal scanned, facial scanned, biometric scans, and that's how you're going to be paying. You won't need cash anymore. You won't even need your smartphone anymore. You will be paying with your face. And of course, you'll need a record of vaccination in order to enter the store to begin with.
A cashless economy where people make purchases with their faces. A giant network of surveillance cameras with facial recognition helps police monitor citizens.
And that's the way they want to play it, folks.
Ready for the new era of Big Brother? This time this super surveillance may be for your own good.
Body temperature abnormality. Body temperature abnormality. Body temperature abnormality.
Temperature sensing cameras have skyrocketed in global interest as states around Australia continue to ease restrictions and businesses slowly reopen.
So you can see I stand here, it's looking at my face here. It then takes your temperature, and this would tell you if your temperature is too high. So my one's 36.68.
Canberra Airport has become the first major terminal in Australia to install thermal imaging cameras for all passengers travelling through security check-ins. Thermal imaging cameras use infrared sensors that can highlight those who might have a fever. But this sought-after technology comes with some criticism.
The best location in the face to detect the core body temperature is the inner tear duct. However, one problem that occurs is when somebody wears glasses, because the thermal camera cannot see through glass.
Surveillance trade publication IPVM has accused some thermal camera manufacturers of faking their sensor accuracy.
This medical grade infrared thermometer said I was about 98.9. So now let's see what does the industrial grade thermometer say, the way that they've been doing a lot of these measurements in Asia.
94.6.
Wow, not even close. This has been consistently off by 4 or 5 degrees.
Plus, fever detection is useless against coronavirus carriers with no symptoms. Nevertheless, companies around the globe are ramping up coronavirus biosecurity as society seeks a new normal. Amazon in the US has started to use thermal cameras as a faster method of scanning its workers for fevers. More than 70 of its warehouse and delivery facilities across America have installed the technology.
Temperature is abnormal. Please check.
Other companies are harnessing tech not for testing temps, but for staying safe. Cameo, NICE, and a Motorola subsidiary are developing security camera software that can detect those not wearing masks or standing too close and ignoring social distancing measures. While this type of data might prove useful for governments and businesses in enforcing health advice around coronavirus, those filmed with rightful privacy concerns might be harder to persuade.
Be more worried about how this technology might have what we sometimes call function creep, in that it is used and designed for one purpose, but then it gets repurposed for other things.
What we said was going to happen. And this exercise, as I mentioned to you a few reports ago, this exercise is due to go until I think March 31st, 2025 is when the whole procedure finishes. Interesting date, folks, 2025. I said a couple of years ago, I did a show called Giving Life to Lucifer, when I talked about the whole rollout of this smart grid, the AI system. And I said that in 2025, we are set to be in a very, very different reality to what we are now. By 2025, the whole system will be controlled by AI. That's the way it's going. And even when I look at the procedures now to combat this so-called pandemic, all the computer models, all the stuff that's been rolled out, if you can understand AI and you can understand that AI is working to gain control for itself, then you understand how these computer models work and why they're so over the top and so, the figures were so wrong. But if you can think of a way of controlling and corralling human beings, then it all begins to make sense. It doesn't matter if the figures are wrong. They just want human consciousness to go in a certain way. And they want to merge us with the machine. And, the question is, who is they? And when you look at it, folks, it's like they is now AI. The AI is already there. We're waiting for artificial intelligence to emerge, but really it's already emerged, folks. It's already there online. Artificial intelligence is already a reality. We're just not looking at things the right way. And what it's doing is it's basically creating a system whereby we are going to be completely dependent upon artificial intelligence in order to survive, in order to perform everyday activities, even going outside and purchasing a meal. You're going to need the whole thing controlled by artificial intelligence to be able to move through that reality, through the new world they're creating. When you look at things such as the Industrial Revolution and you look at the periodic changes that society goes through every 50 to 100 years, even more so every 200 years, there's always a birth of a new reality comes from the one before. A new beginning, if you will. But what is the new beginning we're moving into? It's really going to be a reality that is totally controlled by AI if we're not careful. And, you know, the politicians, I don't even think the politicians know exactly what they're doing. I think too many people who've been involved in setting this up really bargained for what they were going to be getting. It's like all the rock stars and the pop stars and all the superstars and all the sports stars and all these people that have kept society distracted for so many years. I said to you a few weeks ago, you know, the Miley Cyruses and the Madonnas and all these people have been used to keep us distracted. They're all finding themselves on equal par now. You know, that video that Madonna did in the bath when she was saying, wow, we're all equal now. If one goes down, we all go down. She may well have been referring to the pedophile circle she hangs around with. But in many ways, it's, you know, synonymous with the whole of society. I mean, because all the people, all the rock stars and all the people that they pay all these exorbitant amount of money to keep us distracted, they don't care about them. They're all going down too. I said that a few weeks ago, you know, it'd be a bit of a shock for these people to find themselves all locked in their own houses, all having to deal with social distancing. Forget all that rock star world, all the pop star world, concerts and sports games and all that sort of stuff. It's not going to happen, folks. It's not going back to normal. People think that, you know, this is just a temporary thing. No, it's not. They'll find ways of extending it, but they've got to do it in ways that the people are going to go along with. So they've got to do it gradually like this, and they've got to do it under the guise of this pandemic. It's the only way they can really get away with it. It's the only way they can get people to buy into it. The only way they can get people to police each other. You get the soccer mums and the Karens and Aarons and all these superficial people to do what the government says and to enforce it upon the other people. Like I've said before, you know, even we awake people, it's all very well for us to be pushing back, but if we don't wake up the people around us, they're going to drag us into it, whether we want to go into it or not. There's also a new action called Protect Our Neighbours, folks. You know, they're wonderful, aren't they? They want you to spy on your neighbours, basically, folks. Like I said, all the sleeping masses are the ones who are going to drag us into this if we're not careful. So there's now a new program whereby you can protect your neighbours by keeping an eye on them and making sure they're social distancing. Basically spying on them and dobbing them in if they're doing the wrong thing under the guise of protecting them. Isn't that wonderful? All we need is a bit of anger, folks. What happened to anger? Now, there's such a thing as wholesome, righteous anger. And we need a little bit of that in the world today. Too many people are afraid of getting angry. I mean, I think they're scared of getting angry. Anger is a beautiful thing, folks. All emotions are beautiful things. There's nothing wrong with anger. It's when anger becomes violence, it's no good. But you can be angry without violence. You know, I'm angry. If I wasn't angry, I wouldn't do these radio shows. I wouldn't do these reports. If I wasn't angry at the state of the world, I never would have done this to begin with. You know, every show I've ever done has been based in anger at what the parasites that are running the world have done to the world and what they're doing to humanity. And we need a bit more of that, folks. Wholesome, righteous anger.